And today we're going to be working on some, of course the construction workers decided to start. We're going to be working on some coloring pages that we generated yesterday, like I said. So I've got Illustrator and I've got Fresco going. I'm just going to share Illustrator first. Hold on. Okay. There we go. So this should load, yeah, my Illustrator. And I just brought them all in. You know, I just dragged literally all of the downloaded. These are just images. Let me back out of this here for now. You can see my layers panel. I'll just pull it out for you. These are all just images placed on these on a single layer. And then I've got, you know, very different artboards that I created for each of these to just kind of keep things neat and tidy and organized. So you don't have to bring in all of them. You know, feel free to use ones from the links that I shared yesterday in Share Your Work, or, you know, generate your own if you followed along yesterday with the tips that I suggested, Sean and I suggested. And we kind of did a little bit of experimentation. You can see with the different styles here. But the general, just as a quick recap, the general idea here for creating coloring pages in Firefly is to use something like, I use coloring page black and white line as like my core prompt, and then, you know, follow that with whatever it is that you want to create. Coloring page, black and white line, landscape, elephants, we got some snowflakes, I think that's what these were here. And if you're getting like gray tones, you can kind of mess with some of the styles, things like the ink one, or the line work, or bold line, or as we discovered yesterday, things like pointillism also work in conjunction with this technique, as well as you can add line style and psychedelic and I think this was like line style and retro wave to get like some more details. So that's everything. Now I have, I'm going to show you the way that I like to do this. Sean, I think you're working in Photoshop today?
Correct.
Yeah, so Sean might have some other tips and tricks that relate specifically to Photoshop. I like to do this in Illustrator, kind of like the easiest way. And also, feel free to print these out and color them too, traditionally. You certainly don't have to use Illustrator or Fresco or, you know, any of the other tools. But regardless, the way that I like to do this is I actually like to keep my drawings on a separate layer here. So I've got all of my art here. I'm just going to select the whole layer itself by clicking the little, like, I don't know, oh, they call it a target. But it's just like, it's the little circle that selects everything on the layer, like the layer itself. You can select, you know, individual items within the layer. You're going to get a smaller little icon there. And you could do this on individual items, but if you're working, I like to keep this layer as my like multiply layer. And then I know that like everything I put on that layer will have that, you know, effect or appearance or transparency, blending mode in this case, applied. So I'm going to switch to, I'll multiply blending mode. So if you call my pro tips, you know that like these are darkening blending modes, these are lightening blending modes. We've got our contrast blending modes. So
we cannot like see the pop-out window.
Of course we
the
can't.
blending
Right,
modes.
we'll
No.
The other way then. I forgot about the application doesn't like the screens. I wanted to keep the chat up on the side while I did this.
Hey, a layer panel.
Now we can see it. Yeah, so here's my layers panel. If I click on the little target, this is what I was talking about, that circle, that selects the layer itself, versus, you know, going in here and selecting these individually. These, you know, I get a little square, which means I have, you know, individual elements selected on the layer. So when I select this target, when I click on it to select the layer, I can apply my blending mode on the entire layer. So anything that I add to this layer is going to have that blending mode applied. Now, just keep that in mind, because if you see, if I select these individual pages, they don't actually have the blending mode applied. It's applied on the layer level. So it's just kind of like, you can apply styles, you can apply effects and appearance panel things and transparency, blending modes on a layer level. So that's what we've done here. And I'm just going to lock it because I don't really need to mess with this anymore. And the reason I'm choosing a multiply is because I want these lines to like appear over all of the color fills that I add. And we're going to add another layer below this. And that's where I'm going to draw in. I am just using a pen today. So I'm just going to be using the pen tool to draw essentially in shapes where I want to have my color fills appear. It's a little bit different than like a, you know, how Photoshop, you may work with like brushes. It's really personal preference. You can work with the pen tool as well in Illustrator or in Photoshop. This is just, you know, Illustrator works with vector shapes. And so just something to keep in mind. It's a little bit of a different mindset than working with something like brushes. Although you could use brushes on this as well. Like I mentioned yesterday, you can use the blob brush if you have a drawing tablet. So let me go ahead and grab the blob brush here. And what this does is, depending on your blob brush settings, as you paint, it'll create like single filled objects instead of paths. So if you use the regular brush tool, this is going to create let me make this a little bit darker so you can see it. This is going to create a path with a stroke applied to it by default. I mean, you can always switch that if you wanted to, but the blob brush is going to automatically make filled objects for you. So you could go to the blob brush here, bring the size settings up a bit more. Paint it in this way if you wanted to work with like a tablet. And there's a couple settings in here for the blob brush. Where is it? Gosh, they update this? There's a way to check off having the merge only with selection. I think this might be it. I think it was called something else before. But that makes it so that your paths won't intersect, because with that checked off, with this checked on, it won't, you'll see I've got individual shapes here, right? But if I have that checked on, as I draw, right? And if I go over top of this again, it's going to continue to merge these shapes together for you. So you'll end up with a merged single shape at the end, which is easier when you're doing fill stuff like this, if that makes sense. Let me kind of paint something in so I can show you what that means. We're going to go up something really large, even larger. Let's try. You know what? I think I might need to change it in here. I'm going to bring this up. Larger. Go. Right? And I can just, if I had a tablet, this task would be much easier. But, and if you had a tablet too, you could also set this to, instead of being the size being fixed, to be pressure sensitive. So as you drew with like a Wacom or Wacom, you know, however you pronounce that, it would vary. So in this case, I just kind of have to go back and forth here. Needed. Although I could just, it doesn't really matter. If I go over a little bit, I can just bring this to the front. Object, arrange, bring to front, and it's going to go over top of that. So those are kind of two options for adding in colors. Now the other one that we talked about a little bit yesterday was Sion's suggestion here, and I'll actually make another artboard so we can demo that, and then maybe we could switch to you, Sean. If you want to go over, I don't want to take up too much time and make sure we cover Photoshop, Illustrator, and Fresco. So I'm going to go and make another artboard here. So duplicate this one. Okay. We'll do it this way. Let's see. Artboard tool. There it is. I'm going to make another artboard here. And we're going to try using text to vector so that we can see if we can get a live paint sort of thing going on. So I'm just going to draw a square in here. I'm going to go over to text to vector, and I think oh gosh, maybe subject will work. Again, scene is going to be more environmental stuff. It's going to be a little less detailed. Icon varies. It can create things like subject if you have the level of detail turned all the way up. But it usually makes something that's got like a little bit cleaner lines, in my opinion. Pattern makes pattern swatches. Subject makes like, you know, people and puppies and things like that. So there we go. Let's see, let's type something in. Let's do coloring book, black and white line, rubber duck. Let's see what we get. Let's make sure that we have the style match turned off, because I don't want to have color in this, and it will pull that like cyan-y color. I don't know, wait, light bluish. And I'm just gonna bring the level of detail to the middle, and I'm gonna hit generate. So here we go. And then Sion's showing us created this with live paint and recolor.
I had a great experience with Recolor today on my stream.
Oh yeah, were you using it with like
I was making a logo for, yeah, I was making a logo for my new community challenge. And
nice.
I got the colors from Adobe stock, but I just wasn't really happy with them. So I tried the generative recolor and just put in Art Deco. Oh, so nice.
Maybe add black and white only. Yeah. There, unfortunately, with the subject, scene, and icon, that option for color is only in the pattern creation. So you'd have to, unfortunately, I really wish that all of the tools were consistent. So I wish that pattern also had a level of detail slider, and I do wish that these other options here had the color you know, selection. Not so much because like I want to generate something that's black and white. You know, you could always use recolor, but I like to be able to like limit the number of colors. So that is a wish of mine. So I'm gonna go in here and I'm actually gonna, when you generate a subject, it does try to create something that's kind of like isolated and not on a background. So something to consider if you did want to have a background in this, you just generate it separately with the scene and have subject you know, be the rubber duck in this case. But do make sure that you go into your layers here, because you can see that it did include a background just hidden. And it tends to do that from time to time. So you just want to kind of get rid of that. And now I can go over, and I always lose my place on where this is because it's in a weird spot. There it is, the live paint bucket tool. And in this case, everything is creating closed off areas. I don't have any shapes in this that are like open. What I mean is there's no like gap. Like if you had do a demo here. If you had like a circle, right? This is a really lame demo. But if part of this was open, right? Live paint wouldn't recognize that this is a closed area that you can fill. There is a little bit of a workaround for that. Like if you did have a closed area and you're like, no, or an open area, and you really wanted it to be filled. If you go into the live paint settings, or no, where is this? Man, I keep losing. There's a gap.
Wait, wasn't that it? The width at the very
there's
bottom
a gap.
of it?
I don't know if this is it.
I think that's it.
Okay. It used to be called gap detection. I'll try like increasing this and see if it works. Let's do like 50 or 100, something crazy. There we go. Yeah. Oh, okay. You're right, Sean. That is it. So you can see now that I can fill this shape because it's recognizing it as a closed shape. I don't have a color, so let's grab a color. So if you increase that width, which used to be called gap detection, it will close off any open areas you have. Yeah, without the other option is to, you know, close it off yourself by like adding another path here, you know, and then you'd have to like ungroup your live paint group and get rid of the mess, but that's kind of the messy way to do it. But anyways, this already does have some fills on it, so I don't know if that will mess with things. We can kind of get around that by doing, let's do this. I'm gonna isolate this group. So now I'm in isolation mode, so I'm only selecting, you know, our duck here, and I'm gonna select same appearance. That's gonna select all of the black line work that I've got going, and then I'm gonna go, I just did a Control X to cut to show you, but I can go to select inverse, and it's gonna select all those fills and just, delete them. It doesn't look like these are compound paths. So we could try to do a divide on this. Okay, that worked. Yeah, divide like punches everything out, if that makes sense, in the Pathfinder. So now we should have compound paths. Yep. So select same appearance or fill color in this case, and then select inverse and delete. So now we've just got black line to work with, and that might be a little bit easier to demo the live paint because we won't have those like weird shadow down here that we had going on. So now we've got our live.
What would have happened if you tried the live paint on that color?
I feel like it would have just filled like the individual shapes down here.
Oh,
and I don't actually want those. I only want the like line work. I don't want like this weird shading that it added in.
Yep.
So I'm just using this as a little trick to get rid of that shading that I don't want. You know, you could go through and just like fill it. I could have also like merged those shapes like using a shape builder or something if I wanted to have them, you know, be solid fills. But if we're trying to demo like we only have black line work, no fills on this whatsoever. I mean, technically these are all black line work as fills, right? We want to go in here and let's just grab, I'm gonna grab like a nice yellowy color to get started, right? There we go. And now when I click on it initially, it makes this whole thing a live paint group. And once you click on it, you're gonna see that everywhere that I kind of hover over, I can fill. If you hover over the black line, you can actually fill it. But you probably don't want to do that. You might want to do that if you wanted to change the line color. But this is a really quick way if you have used text to vector specifically, you know, to add in some fills to your work. Certainly much faster than, you know, doing this by hand with the pen tool. You just need to have, you know, vector artwork in order to do that. We can go in here and we can like add a little bit of variation now. We'll go in here. Whoop. Right. Super, super easy to do. Much faster. And if you hold down Alt, you can grab that other color there. If you found some other areas you wanted to add it to. Maybe we'll add it to the top here on our beak. We'll go darker orange, cancel. Actually, I don't mind the red that I accidentally made there. Maybe just a little bit in between. There we go. You know. It's a little bit finicky in some places. You can see it gets a little bit harder for me to select, but There we go. There's a little rubber duck. All right, I'm not going to go through and fill all of this. We'll be here all day, and I want to switch to Sean's screen. So there you go. Have fun with it. Then we could do a recolor as well. So, but I do want to. Are you ready for me to switch to you, Sean?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Let me switch screens to you. All right, there we go.
All right, so I am just working in Photoshop. So what we've got the chicken donut, and I realized just now that the donut is the wing. I've also have a dragon that was from Jack's prompt, and a stack of donuts. But sticking with the bird theme, the big thing that you're trying to do, and this is something like Kyle T does a lot. So does Voodoo Val, by the way, is using selections. Now, Jack was using the pen tool, which you totally can use the pen tool. Personally, I am better with the curvature pen tool. So, you can get in here and make your selections, and making sure up here at the top, you are switched to, well, you can actually stay on path. And the way it works is we're going to go through, make a quick selection, double click to change directions here. And let's just take this around. And you can adjust your path. However, whoa.
That's my dog barking.
You can adjust your path. Then going into up here at the top, it says make. You can select make selection and just hit OK. Now over here in the layers panel, I've added another layer because I don't want to paint on this layer. I want to work non-destructively. So we go in, we grab a color. Let's keep it a little muted. Let's warm that up, hitting OK. Now I hit Option Delete and it fills it in. Now, the way that Jack was talking about on our main layer, and let's go ahead and call this our sketch for our sketch layer. We can switch that to multiply. We're going to go Command D, but it has a different effect here. It's not actually coming through. So even if I bring it down, now I've just drug the layer underneath. So it's the same way that Jack is doing it, and we've got that nice selection. Now, we can always come in and adjust, but that is one way to make a selection. The other way I see a lot of people doing it is using the lasso tool. So they will come in and they will go in, make a big lasso tool, and this is really ugly. And we've got that. Let's go ahead and let's lighten that up a little bit. Go right there. And again, Option Delete, and we can fill that in. Now, unlike what Jack is doing, this is put on the same layer. So if you're changing colors and you want to keep your layers on different, or your colors on different layers, make sure to make new layers. So once that selection is done, I'm going to go ahead and hit Command D to deselect. Now, here is kind of a quick way to do it. I'm going to come up and grab the tragic or magic wand. Grabbing that, you're going to want to take a look at your settings up here. First off, you want contiguous checked. That means it's continuous. It's every pixel's going to be selected. If that is turned off and I select the white, it's going to select everything. You can see the marching ants up here, and that's not what we want. So Command D to deselect. We're going to check this on. and also the tolerance matters. So initially, this tolerance was way down to like 2. And if I click in here and make sure you're on the right layer, if I click here, let's zoom in and see what we've got. It's missing these spots in between. So we're going to go Command D to deselect. Let's bring our tolerance up. Let's try 10, 11. We'll turn it up to 11. Click again, and now we've got a nice selection. Thank you for that, Jack. And at this point, we can, again, I don't have a color palette going here. Just grabbing some colors and going Option Delete and fill that in. Now, I'm on the wrong layer. Bingo. So we need to go Command Z, make sure that we are on the right layer. Now we can go ahead and fill that in. So that is a really quick way to do it. Now, the cool thing that you want to do that you can do with this, let's go ahead, hit Command Z, get rid of this. Now, I've got this selection, right? And I just don't want flat colors. I can go ahead, hit B for the brush tool, and I've grabbed Kyle's Ultimate Pastel Palooza. So with that, let me go ahead, turn on my Wacom. It turned itself off. If you're doing this with a mouse, you can come in and just paint fast. And if I zoom in, you're going to see we're getting some cool textures, right? And it's staying within our selection. So this can be a lot of help. Now, I've got pen pressure, so I'm painting rather light. Now, if I go hard, it's doing a full fill, but if I go light, you can see what we've kind of got going on. And I can just come in and just give this a totally different feel than what you get with a paint bucket. And you can always change the colors. You can go dynamic. You can do hue shift with one of these. And that's just all normal, Photoshop settings within your brush settings. So this is kind of what you want to think about, what style that you're going for. So I kind of really love adding a little bit of texture, but then again, this is Photoshop. So what we can do, let me go through this really quick. I'm going to make my brush even bigger because it doesn't matter. I can paint anywhere. It's staying within the lines. My teacher's not yelling at me. It's like, yes. I'm not. Okay. Let me get through this. Wow, I should have grabbed a smaller section, but I'm almost done, I think. Okay. Let's go Command 0, zoom out, Command D to deselect. Now, one of the cool things that you can also do is if we wanted to, let me jump into here, and we're going to grab some halftones. I love me some halftones. So let's bring this around, flip it. We're going to make this big, and we're going to clip it to our color layer. So now we have added halftones into just the color. So we can leave that. And again, we can go in, use like any tool that we want. If we go in, let's see, let's do the top. Let's go ahead. We're going to grab the magic wand again. We're going to select, hit Command D, be on the right layer, Sean. We're going to select that. Now, our tolerance is only allowing us to select that one small area. Let's pin that down. So let's bring our tolerance down a little bit. 5. And nope. Oh, we need to bring that up. There we go. Now we're getting it. And I'm going to hold shift and we can go through and just click wherever it is that we want. So it's almost kind of like the paint bucket. And we may miss something. I don't know. All right, let's go ahead. Let's grab a different color. And of course, let's keep the same hue. Let's brighten that up right there. I like that. And hitting B for our brush tool again, go ahead and start painting that in. And again, just light strokes, letting the texture come through. Now, on a side note, I don't know how many people know this, that you may know it, you may not. The texture within the brushes are actually a texture file. So if you ever think, oh, I want that texture, that's a great texture, I could use that. What you can do is you can go into the brush settings and we can actually go down to texture right here, click on it. There's the texture that is used for this brush. And the name of it is Pebble Board. You can actually import your own textures into it, or you can add, by clicking this plus button, the texture going into your into your patterns. So like if you remember, Kyle T made a brush with his thumbprint. That was the texture.
Oh no, I don't remember that.
Yes.
I
So
must have missed that one.
yeah,
Like on a live stream or like as for like public consumption?
Public consumption. It's in one of the
Oh no, I
packs.
didn't know that.
Yeah. And so what I did is I went through and downloaded it. So
Of course you did.
I didn't realize it was Kyle's thumbprint until one time on the stream I brought it up to him and was like, "Hey, I got your fingerprint. Whose is it?" And he's like, "Oh, that's mine." I'm like, "Oh, all right. Well, thanks."
Nice.
So
Does the thumbprint let you into special parts of Adobe? I don't.
Ooh.
I don't think so.
That's a possibility. So the big thing is when you're doing this, of course, you can come in and let's see. Let's grab a green. Let's bring that down, hitting OK. We can always just paint normal. You can just paint. I'm on the wrong layer. Command. Oh, I put the red on the layer. Oh, well. That's why there's no halftone in it. Get on the right layer, Sean. So because, and you can see the halftone is coming out, it doesn't show until it has something to attach to. So I can sit here and just paint it in normal. So there's many, many, many different ways for you to actually paint within Photoshop using pixels. Now, one thing to remember, initially, Jack was talking about the difference between vector and pixels. So everything that I've been doing here has been pixels. If you want to go with a vector, so let's come down here to the feet. And we end up grabbing, let's grab our pen tool, hitting P for pen. We've got our pen tool. We're going to actually come up here. We're going to go to shape and our fill. Let's go that fill right there. So I can come through here. I'm on the curvature pen tool, aren't I? Yep. Okay. Okay, my battery's low. Thank you for that. I'm going to just go through. I should have just done one toe. I'm double clicking to get straight lines with the curvature pen tool. Ooh, I should have. Bring that one just over there. There we go. Okay, so we've got our shape. Now it made, here's a problem. It made the shape and it's between the halftone and our layer. So you're like, wait a minute, I can't see it. Yep, it's because I made a mistake. Let's go ahead, we're gonna drag that down. There's our color. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab these two layers. I'm gonna go Command G. We're gonna open that up. We're gonna bring our halftone out. Let's double click that layer, call it color. And let's go ahead, clip that back onto it. Now you can see we've got the halftones going on right there into our color. And if I start working over here, you can see the color automatically is coming in as well as the halftones. So now I'm working within a group and I can sit here and just make shapes. That's outside. This is curvature pen tool. Just move it. So hopefully that helps. Is there any questions from chat?
I'm not seeing any questions. Bruce says cool. Yeah, so this would probably be an ideal workflow if you do like more traditional, like, painting or coloring with the, the brush. But you can, like Sean demonstrated, also work very similarly to Illustrator with, the pen tool.
Yep.
So
and because,
honestly, it's a personal preference.
Yep. And because these are shapes, you have to remember they are vector. So the shapes are vector, but then these layers down here is pixels.
Yeah, generally speaking, when you're working with those like really soft or textured brushes, they're going to be pixel based versus, and that's really what kind of separates it. That kind of look is more difficult to do with Illustrator. Penny has a question about the gap fix. Feel free to ask it.
Yeah, we can switch back to Illustrator.
Well, I was going to show Fresco really quickly, and it's going to be quick. I'm not a Fresco expert, but I also just did want to show that you can do the same thing in Fresco. And Fresco is like a dedicated painting program. So if you are a little bit, and we'll see if I can do it. I'm just actually, you know what? I'm just going to do a full screen share the whole time and not even mess anymore with the application window. So Fresco is an interesting little kind of like in-between program. It's got vector brushes, it's got these live brushes, and it's got pixel brushes, and it does a little bit of animation. It's kind of like this little app that does quite a few things. But it is available on the desktop. It does have some pretty high system requirements, so that's something to be aware of. But typically
on Windows.
Yeah. Right, it's on Windows only. It's not on Mac.
Yes.
Yes. So you can use it on a Windows desktop. It also works on some Windows tablets, as well as the iPad. So like I think like the Microsoft Surface, Fresco works with, as well as the iPad. So generally people use the iPad to do this. But I'm just going to show you on the desktop for now. So again, I don't know my tablet plugged in like Sean does, so it's going to be kind of messy. All I have done here to create this is again just an image. So I've dragged my image into here, and I've got an image layer inside of Fresco that I can paint very similarly to the way that I did it in Illustrator as kind of like a first option, right? So along the side here, you have layer properties for the, specific to this image. So we can do the same kind of a thing if we wanted to. We could create a multiply layer here for our image, and then we can go underneath if we wanted to, and you can paint with the various brushes. So I am going to switch. Well, I've got the pixel brush selected, so I'm going to go there first. So let me make it a little bit larger. I've just got the top here, so you're going to be your pixel brushes. You can see you can pick from a whole bunch. You can also load Kyle's brushes into here as well if you wanted to use any of those. We can pick like a nice. Actually, I want the pastel brushes. Oh, I don't even see them in here. Dry media. We'll just go with soft chalk. Oh, soft pastel right there. Okay. So I'll demonstrate just kind of like with the pastel or the pixel brushes first. So again, you can see this is going to be if you want more like a textured look to your illustration. I can kind of paint in here very poorly with the mouse. You know, clean it up a little bit if we wanted to. Ooh, that's very large. There is a draw inside option. I haven't tested it. We can do that if we have time with a PDF that I saved out from Illustrator really quickly, because typically that should come in as vector shapes, and that might work with the draw inside. I haven't tested it. The other option is you've got your vector brushes, and these do create vector paths. So if you work with a vector brush, you could export out that file as a PDF and import it into Illustrator. The downside to that is it does create expanded paths. Oh no, these are live brushes. This is the vector brush. It does create expanded paths, so you don't get like paths with a stroke applied. It's going to be very similar to the blob brush, where it creates a filled object where your brushes were. The last one that I want to show you, because I think it would be really cool, like particularly with this illustration or this coloring page, is the, gosh, I'm losing my train of thought, the live brushes. And these mimic certain materials here. So if we hold down, you can see you've got a choice between creating brushes that mimic watercolor or brushes that mimic oil paints. And with the watercolor brushes, which is what I'm going to use, you got a couple of different options to choose from in terms of the type of brush. But then in here, in the settings, you've got an option for where is it? There's an option somewhere here for the flow. Maybe I'm crazy. Oh yeah, water flow. You can bring this up or down. Bringing it down is gonna make thicker, less water. Like if you add less water to watercolors, and this one is gonna make a more flowy. You can see this is spreading a lot more, depending on where I paint. The live brushes are really nice when you're using. Oh, there's flow. Yeah, we can bring this down if we wanted to tint this. We've got water flow and we've got flow in terms of the amount of paint. So we can bring this down, the size, and we can go over here and change the color. And we can just paint in, oh, come on. We could paint in the elephant's trunk or something really quickly. Just to kind of demonstrate how this works. You can see it behaves very much like watercolor, and that as I paint over this, it's gonna darken the more times that I go over top of the color, it's adding more paint to the surface, right? And then I could even, the other cool thing about these is that you can mix. So if I go in here and I add a purple, it's gonna blend with my original color, so it's gonna start to mix those colors together, especially if you have the flow turned, or the water flow, sorry, turned all the way up. It's really going to mix. If you turn that down all the way, and we just kind of like add it along this edge, for example, it's going to mix a little bit less. Although I do have a lot of water already down, technically, I guess, with the first pass I did a bit, so it's probably going to continue to mix a bit more. So there we go. That's kind of a demonstration, a quick demonstration of Fresco. Let me try. I'm going to try to bring in this PDF. I don't know if it's going to work. I guess I haven't tested this method yet. I just exported out a rubber duck as paths. And I'm going to go to import and open, and we're going to try. Oh no, see, it's not letting me. Let's try making a. Let's just make a square and try to put this in, place it in. Okay, no, it's not going to let me import this PDF. I'd have to think about that a little bit. I know that, like, believe there's a workflow that lets you bring in, like, vector paths into Fresco. I don't know if it works with the draw inside. So the cool thing about the draw inside, or paint inside, the cool thing about the paint inside is if you have you've drawn something already, this paint inside lets you, like, paint inside of the shapes that you've already drawn, similar to how the live paint tool works. But you can paint, like, with brushes, so you can, if you had, like, texture brushes. I'm trying to think of a good equivalent to how it works. Sort of like creating, like, a selection, but it's not actually a visible selection. It's just kind of like creating within that area. So, okay. Does anybody have any questions about Fresco? I know it was kind of like a quick demo. Not like the Fresco expert. It is something I just kind of play around with every once in a while. And also, you can see, not so much here, but if I switch to the vector brushes really quickly, the vector brushes make are on a different layer. So if you're working with vectors, it's going to make a vector layer, versus if you're working with either the live brushes, which are pixel based, or the pixel brushes, it's going to make a pixel layer. So there's like 3 different types of layers that we've got going on here. We've got our image, the vector layer, and the pixel layer. And all of this is working because we've got that image layer set to multiply at the top. So there we go. The vector brush is like the blob brush. Yeah, the vector brush is like the blob brush in Fresco, and it makes the same kind of shapes when you export it out. You're not going to get paths. You're going to get, like, filled outlined shapes in the shape of where you painted. Would Leonardo da Vinci use Fresco or Photoshop? Honestly, it's a personal preference. I know that there's a lot of people that prefer painting in Photoshop, but there's I like using Fresco on my iPad specifically. So honestly, because it's, like, got a very minimal interface, right? Like, I'm only focused on painting, and I only have painting tools when I'm using Fresco, and that's all I really need when I'm on my iPad. Like, it's very purpose specific. So I mean, that's my opinion. Take it as you will. Thoughts, Sean?
I'm coloring.
You're coloring.
No,
okay.
I am.
We have 10 minutes left, so I guess if anybody has any, or less than 10 minutes, if anybody has any last-minute questions or wanted to see something specific, I want to scroll up because I think I missed some questions about Illustrator. Roxanne is saying, I still struggle with vectors. Maybe you can do a recorded explanation of them, please. Yeah, so there's a lot of sessions on Adobe Live. I would say, Roxanne, if you are having trouble with Illustrator and you want to get a little bit better, the Illustrator Creative Challenges are a great place to start. There's actually a set that was with Andrew that was all about basics. Like, we went over color, like just like colors on fills and colors on strokes and how to apply them. There was one just on the pen tool. So it was, like, very, very, like, basics focused. That's a good one. There's also some really great tutorials that I don't think maybe people aren't aware of or don't I don't know if people maybe don't like them, but there's some great tutorials, in my opinion, on the Adobe website for getting started with all the software. There's like a getting started with Illustrator section specifically that'll walk you through the basics as well. I think all the apps have them. There's one for Photoshop, InDesign as well. So I would also say go check those out. Oh, the InDesign's not good? Okay. Don't do the InDesign one, but I feel like the Illustrator ones are pretty good, so I would check those out as a place to get started. Because we're in the Firefly Discord, it doesn't really make. I mean, if we wanted to do like something like that, we could maybe consider it, or maybe I could, we could bring it up to the team. I wouldn't want to take up time like in the Firefly Discord specifically to do Illustrator. We've kind of done stuff like that in the past, but it's been kind of tangentially at least related to Illustrator, so we'd have to figure out a way to make that work. Or I mean, tangentially related to Firefly, if that makes sense. Or maybe we could do like an Illustrator Discord specific event in the future. I wouldn't want to like occupy the Firefly space with like Illustrator tutorials. So there we go. InDesign is such a stepchild in the Adobe family. It's not though. I feel like lots of people use InDesign.
The problem, the tutorials in InDesign, in-app tutorials are old. That's the major problem. They have not been updated forever. So that's the problem I have with them. That's it.
Gotcha.
I really enjoy InDesign.
Yeah, I actually, there's some things I prefer it for. Well, there's some things that you can only do in Illustrator, I mean in InDesign. Things like you can only make an EPUB in InDesign. You can't make it in any other software. There's also I prefer InDesign's, and don't tell Andrew this because I know Andrew loves doing streams on the variables in Illustrator, but I still prefer the data merge in InDesign to Illustrator's variables. I think it's a little bit easier to understand, a little bit more straightforward, personally. So there are some things I like using it for. Really it's things like page numbering. If you really can't do like automatic page numbering and stuff like that in Illustrator. So it has its good features. So Sean's sharing the finished chicken. You finished a coloring page. I did not. I was too busy chatting. I guess I finished the duck. We'll count the duck, but that was like super speedy and also way more simple. So
see, I like your limited palette. I actually went in with the concept that I was going to use a limited palette and monochromatic, and I did not.
Fair. You don't have to. It's you may. I like the purples for sure, and the purples and the reds. I don't know. I like that, and the blues. It's very nice. There are chickens that are like that color. Not like vibrant purple, but like they're like darker colors. They're pretty cool. I have like a person I went to college with that now has chickens and has like a iridescent colored chicken. I don't know what it is, but it's like really dark and like the feathers are like iridescent with light hits them. It's pretty cool. All right, I think that's all the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, Clever saying dark feathers have a purple and green sheen. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So these sessions are recorded. I'll stop sharing my screen so you don't have to look at my duck anymore.
You'll have to look at it on Share Your Work.
Yeah, I'll share that to share your work. If you have questions outside of this, you can always feel free to post them, either in questions or the chat channels. This will be our last stream for this week, Thursday. I don't know what next week looks like because we've got the holiday going on. I would like to do, if possible, one food-related Thanksgiving stream. Since I think we talked about doing that earlier and we just never got around to it. We've been so busy with doing other things. So we'll see. We might do a food thing next week.
Yeah, that sounds like a Monday stream.
Yeah, we can do that Monday. On Monday, food themed. So let us know what you guys think. And what else can I tell you? Oh, these are recorded, so they'll be shared at some point. If you want to go and rewatch them at a later time. And then also, oh, I know what I wanted to say. I wanted to also throw out there, I know yesterday, a lot of people really were enjoying these sort of like very specific deep dives. So if there's anything, any other particular type of thing that you're trying to create, like coloring pages, like I'm trying to make this specific thing, let us know and we'll be happy to go down another one of these kind of deep dives on troubleshooting how to do X specific thing using the various options that we have in Firefly. So that's all I got to say.
Has anybody seen a difference in the new Firefly update?
That was as of yesterday.
Yes.
Correct? Yeah.
I have not had a chance to really dive into stuff. Today,
No.
Thursdays are really busy for me.
Yeah.
So
I haven't looked at anything specifically.
All right.
So it's still Model 2, yes, but they've like done an update. Gareth says I've been. Oh, you having been away, I've noticed a lot of differences. Yeah, you will have noticed a lot of differences in Model 2 in general, but there was an update just like yesterday, and so
I think
what
did
today
it say?
was it?
No, it was yesterday.
Yeah. Okay.
I was just
I
wondering.
thought it was crazy.
Is it Firefly 11.0?
Mm-hmm.
So they're updating. They're working at it. All right. I think we should call it a day.
Yes, I agree.
Thanks, Jack. This was
fun. Thank you, Sean. Yes, you finally got to make one of these coloring page streams. So
I did. I kept coming back going, oh, dang it.
Yeah, they're quite fun. I would encourage you all to give this technique a try. I think it would be a lot of fun if you've got like, as an activity, if you've got like young kids in your family or something like that, or adults, whatever. Like keeping people busy on Thanksgiving. We've got that coming up, so.
Hey, Uncle Sean, can you color this? Stay away from me. Well, I won't be hearing that. I'll be in Greece, so.
Well, yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could still make your own coloring pages for the plane trip, you know.
I could. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Yeah, Stian, I apologize. I think it's like constantly the highs are like 71 and the lows are like 68.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's
perfect weather.
We're staying in a cave apartment. It's
a cave.
It's one of the Greek islands that they're built. The villages are built on the cliffs. It's the white with the blue roofs.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Just
yeah.
I'm getting my
Take lots of
camera.
pictures. Yeah.
I may. Okay, now we're really gonna end this. Thanks, Jack.
Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.